You can't hear me, right?
I can now. So, welcome. We're live on YouTube. So, Adam, this is Adam. He's a comic, an author, owns Madcap's Comedy Club, and we're gonna jump right into it. So we don't. The first time around was just bonkers. So, Adam, you're an entrepreneur. You own Madcap's Comedy Club. What you've been an entrepreneur most of your life. Like, what made you become an entrepreneur instead of an employee?
Um, I don't do well with authority. I don't do well with authority. I learned that at a young age, uh, and tried to clock in and clock out a few times when I was young. When I was a therapist, is probably the longest that I ever clocked in and clocked out. But I don't know, man. There was always something inside that I got to chase something. I think somebody told me, if you're not working on your dream, you're just working for somebody else's. And I'm like, yeah, I need that. I got to pursue something that I'm passionate about, something that I love to do. And I've always kind of been that. I got to try everything, man. I always said I got to be able to die okay, right? So I got to feel like I chased everything until I'm not allowed to chase it anymore. Till death, catches me. I got to be able to say, you know what? I swung at everything that I ever wanted to give it a shot at. So that's kind of been it.
Indeed. You remind me of my dad. He was like the same way, or my parents too, like my mom too. Like they were like, we're tired of working these 9 to 5 jobs. We're just gonna start a restaurant and we'll see what happens. And then they ended up getting a second restaurant and I became their dishwasher when I was 9. And so that joke that I performed at yours on stage was a real thing.
No,
So
it's a real deal. No kidding.
yeah, like most of it, like the majority of it is, but like I'd say 5% is false, like embellished. But
Yeah, sure, sure.
I had so much fun on your stage on Thursday. It was
Yeah, I
great.
appreciate you coming out, man. That's why we do it. A lot of the comics are like, hey, it's a great place, it's beautiful, etc. And I remind them that a comedy club we're nothing without the comics, right? We're just a stage with mic and seats without that. And the comics make this club, and the people that come to these clubs make the club, right? It's a three. It's like the perfect unity of like three, right? You need that. You need the crowd, you need the comics, you need the club, right? And that's how it goes. I know some clubs don't see it that way. They see it's like, hey, we're always going to be a club. There's always comics, right? I don't see it that way. We're nothing without the audience and the club and the comics.
Indeed, and that's why I like love independent ones instead of like the massive like chain ones. That's just my style. I think it's just something about a mom and pop shop. Maybe it's because I was like raised in a mom and pop shop that makes me love the independent circuit more. So
Yeah, well, independent circus is about right, man. A lot of people tell you, you open your own business, right? They think that you have more freedom, etc. And that's not necessarily true, because when you open your own business, you're rarely off work, right? Even when you're off work, you're thinking about what you got to do to come back to work. So you work more hours, certainly owning your own business, than a 9 to 5. But I'm working for my idea, right? My vision, my passion, for my employees, right? I'm working for those things, as opposed to, like, I got to go file papers or push emails around, all day. I mean, no offense to that, because some people, they're built for that, and some people love that fact that they can go and quit work and be off of work at 5, and I'm done with it, and their weekends are their time. My hat's off to the people that can do that 9 to 5, right? That can do it, that put their work in 40 hours a week plus, right, and take care of their family. That sacrifice those things in order to have their weekends, right, and be able to clock out, right? Because a lot of people they're not built to do 60, 70 hours, even if it's your passion, right, to do that. So my respect goes to those that can do the 9 to 5, that can push that kind of work, and grind that hard, so they can have their own free time, right, and work a lot less.
Yep, most definitely. Yep, and it's true what you said about like when you're not at work, you're still thinking about work and like when I was living out in LA during my apprenticeship years, like I was just like had a 9 to 5 job, and then after made up as many excuses not to give him any more of my time, and so I can do my other job, which was concert journalism. And then I worked the weekends because the office that I was apprenticing at, or the studio that I was apprenticing at, they were closed on the weekends. So I was always like constantly working, and so that's what like made my mind program to always keep working on your dream. Like promotion never sleeps. So that's what I
Yeah.
learned. My buddy Wade taught me that in Colorado too. So
Well, it's true, man. We're not, unfortunately, I guess for me, we're not in the days where, I get to go slay a dragon, right? Not that those days ever existed, right? But I got to go on some journey or mission, right? I no princess to save, right? There's no evil to hold back in the world, right? I don't have that. And in today's society, at least in America, I can speak for, right? The way you take those journeys, in my opinion, are the careers that you choose, or the careers you try, or the dreams you try. And so I've been lucky to have all kinds of adventures, because I was this and I wanted to try that. And I always saw employment or ideas or making money, however you saw it, as an opportunity for an adventure, not a career occupation, right? That this, I'm going to do this and this forever, right? I don't, that's hard for me to, to grasp, right? So they're my little adventures, man.
Absolutely. And that's all about life. Like your little adventures are the chapters of each chapter of your life. Like I'm on chapter 38. That's how old I am. And I tell people it's because Asians don't raisin. And I said that at Austin's, and they couldn't believe I was in my late 30s. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Adam, you have a great voice, and you use that voice to be a guest speaker in high schools, colleges, businesses, sports organizations, and strangers. What made you like just talk to everyone and at any moment and anywhere?
My mother would tell you that I was always really talkative, right? I was curious to a point, right? Sometimes at fault, right? Well, what's this? Why is that? Who are you? Right? What's going on? Tell me about this. Why can't I go there? What if I'm not that tall, right? It was always, "Well, how does this work? Why does that work?" I was always pretty curious about doing things like that. When I was, 6, 7, 8, right? It was, dreamed to be an '80s hair band, right? I'm singing David Lee Roth, jumping off the top of my bunk bed, right? It was singing songs like that. I'm a freestyle rapper too. I do that, and one of the first songs that I ever performed, I was 13, and my mother had been recently. My mom got divorced from my dad, and I surprised her at a big family New Year's party. I got on stage and I started freestyling, or not freestyling, but rapping over Tupac's "Dear Mama." Right, so I was on stage doing that at a young age, right? Just always, I always liked the entertaining part of any of it, being entertaining, providing people smiles, laughs, thoughts, right? To think, right? Whatever it is, I've always been curious about that. And I've often asked people that, don't know what they want to do or a dream or anything like that. I always told people is think back when you were a kid, before you knew that you had to have a job, right? Before you knew what job titles were, what did you want to do? Right. Was it have fun? Was it eat? Right. Was it cook, play outside? Right. For me, it was, I wanted to entertain people. And I always tried that since I was a kid. I was making funny faces. I was always trying to be entertaining. And I think that just led to opportunities that, got placed in front of me with a little time, luck, and some work. I got a chance to do that, from, hosting my own ESPN radio show for a while, to speaking in schools. Did that for a while. Got to speak to the NFL Combine, or the NFL alumni groups a few times, whether it was on mental health or motivation, right? However it was, I got to do some of those speaking gigs. And being a therapist and talking about mental health first is really what led me, to those interviews and things like that. And my podcast that, I don't do much anymore. The Cognitive Rampage was my thing for a good 5 years. Um, and I think speaking on that for a long time off the radio show sort of kind of got me talking like that. And I need a voice like this, man, because this don't look that pretty. What I mean? I gotta have something. I gotta have something.
Same here. That's like I totally relate, but like on a stage, because like my buddies in Daytona go, you sound like a kid, but you say all these really gross things, and so it makes everyone pay attention to you, and it just quiets the room, but they laugh along with your jokes, and it's like Kevin Tibbert.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
he gave me the nickname the cleanest, dirtiest comic in Daytona Beach because I say all these really bad things without saying a curse word, and so
Yeah.
that's what I did on your stage on 10 minutes no curse words and.
Dude, I got this picture of Kevin when Anna, I always say Leapley, but I say it wrong. Leapley?
Leply.
Lepely, yeah,
Yep.
Lepely. She made me say it in French in the right way on stage, right? But she has that drag show that she does, all over the country and all. And they did that at my first club, Mellow Monkey. And there's a picture I got of Kevin standing out front before the show wearing a pink dress, smoking a cigarette, and with his like boots on that he had on, the black boots. It is so funny looking at Kevin out front, right? He's kind of leaning on a pole, and it's just a shoulder dress too, so there's no sleeves on it, just a shoulder dress. Kevin leaning on a pole, smoking a cigarette out front with his black combat boots on. I was like,
um,
woohoo. That's funny.
Awesome. Good stuff. I remember working the door that night, and I
That's right.
remember
Yeah,
taking photos that night, and it was such a great night. It was
it was
just a
fun.
beautiful thing. Most
Yeah, to
definitely.
see Marcus Crespo and that and his little thong thing doing what he's doing, bobbing for cucumbers or whatnot that they were doing. Whew, man, that's a scene I'll never forget, man.
Shout out to Marcus too. He's like the best. I call him my brother bear. He's like dropping knowledge whenever like I need it, and he's always there for me. And I'm going up to Jacksonville like at like soon, and just hitting up all three mics. So can't
I
wait to
love
see
Marcus,
him.
man. He's a sweetheart and a half, man.
Absolutely, I agree. There's like some sweethearts and there's some sad pandas. You just gotta hang out with the sweethearts.
Sweethearts and sad pandas. That sounds like a comedy show that you're about to produce, man.
That'd be awesome. And speaking of producing, you produced, as you mentioned, the Cognitive Rampage, and you hosted podcasts. You've also appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience, other podcasts, radio shows, MSNBC, Nasdaq Live, and NBC. And how were you able to be guests on all those shows, on those podcasts and such?
Oh man, weird things, right? I have friends that ask me, like, how do you wind up doing this stuff, right? Joe Rogan, I ended up meeting Joe at the Improv one night, and we were chatting. I had an idea about what I wanted to talk about, what was going on in mental health and addiction treatment, things like that. And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, we're doing this. We're going to talk about it. And he was kind enough to bring me on the podcast with Nick DiPaolo too, and Red Band on that show. And it was cool at the end of that show. Joe and I were shooting a game of pool, and he was being interviewed by Rolling Stone, and the guy had to leave because this guy Donald Trump, was running for president, and he had to go, interview him, right? So he had the guy to get out of there. And I remember sitting there going like, Donald Trump's going to run for president, right? And then became that. So Joe was cool enough to let me on that show years ago, and I'd probably say 2019. I had a .com business with some partners, and it was where you would buy and sell businesses online. We were including the blockchain and some AI that people hadn't seen before, and how you can buy a business, right, and exchange private information more securely, not wasting realtors' time. It's a whole big deal of it. And because we were including blockchain and AI and what we were doing, we got invited up to be on NASDAQ Live, which also airs on NBC during Blockchain Week up in New York. And I was interviewed on a show up there with NASDAQ Live, and got to talk about that business that we were talking about launching around 2019. We were launched about that time. I owned an independent digital marketing company, and I had partnered with these other two gentlemen in that business. And that business ended up having some weird shifts and turns at the end that were pretty wild and crazy. That may be in another book I write about. So that, it didn't fully come to fruition after all that. I also, for some reason, Donald Trump was there too. It's weird. He was like mentioned at the Joe Rogan interview, right? And then he walks by me in a hallway after I get off of NASDAQ Live doing that interview. And I'm like, what's this dude? Everyone, everyone I wind up, this dude's in the same city, or he's, something's, nuts in his life or something, or he's showing up there. But yeah, I don't know. I guess you could call it I guess I always had a knack for talking, right? My buddies would always make me. They call me the platinum tongue Native American. Anytime we had to get out of trouble as kids, they're like, "All right, let Adam do the talking. Let Adam do the talking." I probably inherited it from my mom and dad in some fashion. But yeah, I either sound really pompous and arrogant and obnoxious when I'm talking sometimes, and you want to punch me in the face. I watch some of my old videos now, dude, on the Cognitive Rampage, man, and I would do these live videos, and talk about mental health or this and that, and I want to punch myself in the face. I'm so annoyed watching myself and listening to myself talk. I hope you live in your cognitive rampage. Let's talk about mental health and anger. Where does anger really come from, right? It's this mansplaining. It's, oh my God, it makes me sick, dude. But I was on a mission back then, to expose addiction therapy and some real truths behind mental health. I was working inside of addiction and mental health for a while, and I was just serious issues in that crap, man. And so I was really focused on that, plus writing the book at the same time. So a lot of the videos I was doing, I'd love to say I was out just trying to help other people. I was talking to myself, man. I was going through a divorce at the time, putting out that first book, right? My whole life was in changes. And I walked away from a career. I got blackballed from being a therapist because I spoke out on Joe Rogan's podcast. I was fired from both of my therapist jobs the minute I got off of Rogan. for speaking the truth. And then I doubled down and went harder, right? So I was just in this horse blinder zone on of like mental health, corruption, people need to know, right? And you can take on the world, but the world always wins, man. You take on the insurance system and mental health, dude. Eventually, man, you lose things, and you wind up tired at the end, and that's where comedy came in and saved my life. The Rampage was a fun podcast. I loved it. I learned so much. It was exhausting. It was so tiring, not you're being yourself, but always on point with like the next, health trend, the next mental health trend, right? And it just reading all the time, just stand. It's a fun thing to do for a while, but it gets exhausting, man. And when I found comedy, I was like, I literally just stopped doing the podcast. We got to like 320 something episodes of like 5 years or so of podcasting, dude. We're 150,000 subscribers, and I just stopped. I'm like, I'm done. I can't be that dude anymore, man.
Totally, I understand, and that's why I call these live stream shows. They just pop up randomly instead of like having something like set aside and released weekly. I was like, I got done doing that during the quarantine thing, and that's where this all started. I'm like, just gonna just do them randomly. I'm not gonna call it a podcast anymore. I'm not even on any podcast streaming forums. This is just straight to YouTube. Joe Rogan can have Spotify exclusively. I'll be on YouTube exclusively. So
Yeah, we all will be until they figure out how to hit buttons and turn everybody off eventually, right?
absolutely,
Yeah,
he can get those millions of dollar paychecks, and I'm like happy doing this for free. So putting my
yeah.
pals on. So, but yeah, speaking of the cognitive rampage, that was the name of your podcast. It's also the name of your book. And what made you it became a top seller, and what was the feeling like when it became a top seller, and what made you write the book?
Um, when I started writing the book is I found myself early. I didn't want to just be a complainer about the industry, right? I didn't want to be like, "Hey, look at all the issues. This is all terrible and corrupt." I want to go, well, here's a solution, right? Here's something to answer the questions, not only reveal some corruption and some misinterpretations of mental health, but here's something that helps, right? Here's an answer to the things that I'm talking about. And, my mentor at the time, Leo D'Anibal, we worked through a theory. So we ended up putting a theory together, a treatment approach theory called transrational structure behavior theory. And you can't sell a book titled that at all. So that became the cognitive rampage, right? So the cognitive rampage is the self-application of TSBT, of applying that to yourself. I call it a master's degree in mental health in one read, right? As simply as you can put it. And so mainly writing the book was to offer a solution, to offer a different approach to help for people dealing with mental health help, addiction, or just looking, your life's fine, but a lot of people are just looking for life development, right? Something to push themselves a little further, which it can do every bit of that. And what I was seeing at the time is a lot of practitioners, when you get in that field, you're either like a behavioralist, right? Or you're an environmental practitioner, right? Or you're, a biologist, right? You take it from one approach, right? And or a cognitive practitioner, right? So, but I thought a lot of which each industry was saying had some help and great theories and treatments to it. And so I sort of combined what all of those fields were doing and then put them together in this application that one could apply to themselves, right? And that's where the book came from, man. And I released the first edition in April 2016. And as I read and reread that book myself, um, I had to question some things about the first book, particularly the last chapter about purpose and goal setting, etc. So I went back through it and rewrote a second edition. And in that second edition, that's when I'm like, that's it. That's what I was looking for. I took out a lot of subjective nature of what I was putting into and put more science back into it rather than what I thought, somebody, would work for somebody. And yeah, so the second edition I put out, and I put that out 9 months later, roughly. And it was in the top 1%. I think it still is in the top 1% of mental health books on Amazon that's out there, and that was 2017.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. And I remember going to Madcaps on Thursday, and the other doctor lady was like, said something about your book, and you invented that style. And I'm just paraphrasing it, and that really stood out to me. Like, you like, kind of like, checked her, a little
She
bit.
tried me, right? I was like, "You
Yeah.
don't think I was that dude?" She's like, "No." And I said, "Have you ever heard of transrational structure behavior theory?" She goes, "Yes, I've heard of that theory." And I'm like, "I founded that theory." She's like, "Mm-mm." I'm like, Google it. Yes, yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Indeed.
It was funny,
And
man.
it was like a game of chess. I was enjoying every minute of it. It's like,
I love me some
man,
chess now. That's one game I love.
me too. I started playing chess because of like Liquid Swords by the Jizza, and he has this box set of Liquid Swords, and when you open the box set, there's like a chess. You can play chess in it. It's
Oh,
really
that's cool.
dope. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
that's
can
cool.
either buy like the small version of the CD version or the record version, which is like the big version of the chessboard. It's so dope.
Oh, that's wicked. Yeah, I was playing in since second grade. I'd played and played. I played some county tournaments, some state tournaments. I remember being in like second and third grade playing like 30-year-old dudes, right, for county tournaments and things like that, and winning occasionally. And entered the world rankings of like I think it was like 1680. One time for a brief time in like fifth, sixth grade, something like that. And that sort of faded out of my life playing that when I got into playing every sport I could possibly play. But man, that is one game. I tell you what, man, I love to sit down and play with people. You talking about getting play that game with somebody, and you really can get in their mind frame, like how they think, what they think, how they approach life, right, and challenges and stuff. Yeah,
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That and Texas Hold'em are like my two favorite games. Like I just love them so much. Like even win or lose, like I go all in and I'm just like and it taught me so much about life. Like always remain two or three steps ahead of everyone else. And I remember like the old VP of the studio that I was working at, he was like, "Man, like you made the like you wrote this letter to get here, and now you're like 10,000 steps ahead of everybody else that's in trying to make it like you are here in Hollywood land." And I'm like, I guess yeah, I guess you can put it that way, and I got what I wanted out of that Hollywood land. I got an end credit in a movie, like my favorite,
nice.
my second movie ever, and I'm like, this is awesome. Like randomly, I found it on YouTube. It was super rad.
That's cool. Yeah, I do not play the cards, man. That is not my game. I would get destroyed playing some people. About the only card game I played coming up was Tonk. I don't remember if you playing Tonk, but in the Pine Hills, Ocoee, Winter Garden area, and that's Tonk was the game, man. So that's about it. Other than that, no, man. I would get destroyed trying to play anybody in poker or any of that nature.
Most definitely, indeed. And so, you're writing and performing stand up, and you produce shows. Like, what are some of your favorite shows that you produced?
Um, let's see. That's hard. You know, shows that stick out to me, just when you ask a question, I think about it. Probably the very first show that I did at Mellow Monkey when it became Mellow Monkey. There's a guy that I know named David Jolly,
Yep.
who hadn't headlined ever, and I'm like, David, you're the one. You're the dude that's going to headline and open this show for your first headlining experience, right? And he comes out and headlines, and Timmy Time was on that show. And there's a couple videos up still of Timmy on the Instagram, talking about, I whooped cancer's ass 2 times, right? Going on a third, right? And that night I got to spend some time with Timmy, and watch Jolly do his first thing, for a long stretch like that and kill. And it was my first comedy club show. I had produced some shows, bar shows, a place called Off the Hook, bar shows, not Naples Off the Hook, Off the Hook up here in New Smyrna. I started that doing just regular Friday shows, but it's a bar show, right? It's not like a comedy club. But that opportunity in Mellow, when it was like my first comedy club show production, um, that one hits. And I would probably say the first show that we did here at Madcaps, with Dean Napolitano, and Chris Robinson featuring for him, and watching a legend like Dean Napolitano literally slay and destroy this venue for 4 shows, 7:30 show, 10 o'clock show, Friday and Saturday. And just I hadn't I've seen some greats, and I hadn't seen anyone do it like that. Like when you get, standing O's at the end of shows, and you got hecklers that he was dealing with hardcore in the late shows and handles it like a pro. Nobody handles hecklers better than Dean. And to watch a dude like that do an art form like comedy, and do it like you and I breathe, and do it like you take a breath. And that those 2 shows stick out to me. The very first one at my first club, that one, at this one, probably stick out, the most to me, I think, as far as shows that I've seen. There's a couple others, my best friend Alex Yu, who a lot of people know, man, that's my boy. I love him to death. He did a show when I was testing the market out here at Spring Hill Suites Marriott here in New Smyrna. It was the highest grossing show that we'd ever done at Spring Hill. And I watched him and Alan Newcomb light the room up, and just blow it up. And to watch, Alex Yu's my favorite comedian, right? Everybody that asks me, he's my best friend, but he's also my favorite comedian, and that's including all the famous people, right? And watching my best friend do what he loves to do, right, and disappear on that stage like Alex does, man, that show sticks out to me, in my mind big time. Those are probably the top three shows that stick out to me the most.
Absolutely. And I miss Timmy and his interview's still on my YouTube channel. I'm not taking that down because like his family and friends can always go back and watch him and see him. And I interviewed him in Daytona, I remember, and I love Dean too. Like, you can tell which ones are gonna be like the best comics because they're like the most, like when I interviewed him, like you can just feel his energy and it was amazing. And I'm hoping he brings his one man show back because he performed it in Stanford at the Ritz, that theater
Yeah, was
down
it
there.
the Bart Drive Boys or something like that?
I think so, yeah. And I
Something
really
like
want
that.
to see it again live because like I missed it. I didn't even know about it. I'm like, and I have my own one man show too. How I like, went into Hollywood, became a concert journalist that led to being me doing stand up. And I got picked up at Orlando Fringe and Spooky Empire. Got picked up at like all these random places. There's a secret link to my YouTube to it, and it's like an hour long. I'll send it to you. It's
Yeah, I'd
like
love to see it.
I have like three versions. One's like a PG-13 version for like all ages, and one's like a really dirty version. So it's like for the third act, it's
Such is life, man. There's one version, then there's one version, right?
yeah, indeed. So you currently own and operate Madcap's Comedy Club, and you're soon to be multiple locations. And what made you own your own comedy club after Mellow Monkey and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so Mellow Monkey, I had two partners with me. They had a fledgling business when I showed up. It was- I won't even. It was called Area 51, and they didn't know what they were doing really. They were trying to figure it out. Uh, Showed up and brought them a plan of what we could do. They liked the plan. Came in as a partner with them for the third. We had some falling outs that were pretty public through the Orlando Comic Group that
It's
I let be known and they let be known. But it's all right. It fell apart. Um, they ended up running out on the lease sometime around January, February. The city of Sanford was working with me. The building owner there was working with me really hardcore. Man, the loops you have to jump through, letters you got to mail, and city conferences you got to go to. I went through all of that, and I was supposed to sign the lease March 26th, and we started hearing about this thing called COVID, and I'm like, oh no, oh no. I mean, we were all set, man. We were like right there, and the landlord was a nice guy named Tony. Was cool enough. He waited away. I waited around till August to see if we could pull it off, and it just wasn't a smart time. And I had to let the space go. Unfortunately, it was a great space. The city of Sanford was awesome. And a historic district was a great place to be. I loved it. Now it's an insurance office painted completely white when it used to be a comedy club painted completely black. Um, so when I lost that one, I always knew, I was going to open another one. And I have so the business model is a little different than your typical comedy club of, 150, 250 seats, full kitchens type stuff. So it's kind of a new business model approach toward a comedy club, right? More of an old school approach, I guess you should say, more than anything, with a few tweaks. And I took that idea and I tested the market. I live in New Smyrna Beach out here, so I want to test the market for a while before we open this one. And finally got to open this one. But key to part of this business model is having multiple locations. We just left our potential second location today. We're looking at maybe signing the papers by the end of the week for the second one. 3 months after that, we'll have the third one. The goal is to open 10 in 5 years. And have that set up. It's a lofty goal in a way, but the way the business model is set, it's much more possible. Trying to do it that way. And, I just, I was in the nightclub business long before I became a therapist and did that, right? The nightclub business, I built clubs, I ran clubs for about 10 years. That was what I loved to do, right? And I had this idea of like, well, I'm going to get married one day, right? I can't be a nightclub guy forever, right? And, some reasons I went and became a therapist, but I've always loved it in this scene, right? And now I get to do that scene and do it and make people laugh, right? And help people, get better at their dream, right, of being a comedian, and help out ways that I can do, as opposed to just a nightclub where I'm slinging alcohol, hoping, at best bet I'm helping people hook up. You know what I mean? At best bet I'm making babies for some people that don't mean to. You know what I mean? And so this is a better delivery for me, right? I love this system, the delivery system for it. And comics are probably my favorite people. Being a comedian myself too, we're all a bit off in some weird way, and I love that. And I love that it's no holds bar. You could just meet a comedian for the first time. You guys can like riff on each other, right? Nobody's crying, nobody's sensitive, right? People help each other in this industry, and a lot of people are against each other too in this industry. It's a small industry too, as if there's not room for everybody, right? Um, and for me, part of that is helping comedians do what they do, helping up and comers get time that they sometimes don't get. Um, Being that aspect of it, not just I'm running a club and you're a comic, so this is what go right. Ugh, right? The idea I get to help out on three different fronts. And then this business model allows me to help out guys and girls that are features and headliners, that may not get booked for a full weekend, that destroy rooms, right? Who may not be that famous, right? Who aren't pulling in, 50, 60, 100,000 followers on something, right? But destroy rooms. Maybe don't kiss the right butts so they don't get on shows like they should be other places. They had some political falling out 5 years ago that somebody's holding on to. Here's an opportunity where we can put guys like that on this stage and girls like that on this stage. One of my favorite things to do is to give people their first headlining gig, right? Is to give the first up and comer their first feature spot. Like Joe Sensabella did his first 25-minute feature out here for us. Um, that's something I'd love to do, is like, dude, and watch them do their thing, right? And just crush and watch them have a good time to get in their flow state. And watching a young guy get off stage excited that, they crushed is so cool to watch, right? And then you watch a guy like Dean get off stage who murdered for 4 shows. He's like, can I have a Yingling? You know what I mean? The young boy gets off. He's like, dude, I was throwing flames. I was like, you did okay, man. You did all right, dude. But to them, they're like, oh my God, right? I crushed, right? And Dean does what he does, and other guys and girls do what they do, and they're like, I gotta take a piss.
Indeed. Most definitely. Man, it's so true. Like, and I love, like, with my festivals, I love like when my buddies say, "Hey, I got a new band, and this will be our first show. Can you put us on?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And there's like a live stream of one, and it's just their first show at the Rainbow Bar when it was open. It's like a picture of a fish. It's not like not an actual rainbow, but like a rainbow bass or trout. I just don't know fishing. My dad knows fishing, but yeah, they just had their first show, and it's just an instrumental band, and they just had so much fun. And I love doing what you do, like just giving them that first chance on a big stage. And I love your club because it's so intimate, and it's just dark and it's perfect. And like I performed at the Relapse Theater one time on tour once, and the laugh just took forever because there's so many people in there, and it felt like an ocean wave. Just I had to wait till the next laughs go over, and like 6 minutes is 6 minutes no matter what. And it just after each joke, it was just like, I'll have to send you that video too. Or I'll just send you my entire press kit, and then you'll see it, and you'll see
Yeah,
what I mean. And when you talk about like like comedians joking at, like roasting people a little bit, my roast is on there too. So I hope
okay,
you enjoy it. It's like an old Don Rickles roast, and it's just an hour of hilarity. I think you'll love it.
yeah, I'll dive into it, man, for sure. Yeah, we ended up I modeled this club after the LA Comedy Store. Mitzi's always sort of been a role model to me for a long time, not just from a business perspective, but from a lot of different perspectives, right? And to do what the LA Comedy Store has done and continues to do, right, even despite changes or whatever, it's from down to the colors we use, right? The red and black and white is what we use at Madcaps, right? From the way the belly room is set up, is sort of mixing two of their rooms into one room here, and trying to pull that same vibe. Even how they structure shows, Mellow Monkey, we structured shows like they did for a while. A lot of comics, not a lot, a few comics are like, hey, you can't run shows like that with 10 comics on a card. I'm like, yeah, we open with the features. The headliner follows the features, and all those 5-minute people got to follow the headliner, and they get chances, right? It was about giving those people I had met. I don't know if we talked about this. Like before I opened Mellow, I spent 2 years doing open mics, right? Just as a comic, knowing I was going to open a comedy club. and just learning the ins and outs, the clicks, the who the gatekeepers believe they were, right? Who was mean, who was not nice, right? I developed a list. I developed an FU list on my phone of people that were just mean and arrogant and didn't give nice people shots, and then list of comics that I watched go to all of these open mics, right? And work hard on these tight fives and had a good, funny tight five, but never got booked. Never got booked in anything. And that's why at Mellow, I started doing that where I'd have like 5 5-minute people that would follow the headliner, after the shows, trying to get those people time. And I did 2 years of personal research out in this local community of comedy before I even opened the club, to where it came time. Because I know when you open the club, and now everybody's your friend.
Yeah.
Everybody, hey Adam, what's going on, brother? Yeah, when you gonna put me on your show, right? I was like, well, when the Mellow Monkey shut down, man, where were you? I
Right.
didn't hear from you at all, man. And you kind of know that's going to happen, right? And you got to anyway, right? You're under your comedy club. Comics got to work. They got to push and say, put me on your show, right? So I don't hate anybody doing that. It's just a funny thing to watch, man.
Indeed. I am in the same boat as you. When I like when COVID didn't hit and I was out there with my camera interviewing everybody, including yourself at Mellow Monkey, and all the comics, like, from the Panhandle down to Miami, like I knew and saw who were the bad guys in the cliques and stuff. And I'm like, you know what, I'm not, I have the poop list because I don't like to say curse words, and there's a bunch of them on there, and that's why I'm never gonna have them on my festivals. I'm like, you
Yeah.
should have treated me better and stop calling me weird and strange. And people were like telling me, "Which planet are you from?" And and I'm like, I took that at first as an insult, but then when I saw like what I've been through, it's like I would be called weird and strange and from a different planet too. If like the woo and everything came into my life, it's like my
Dude,
life's
all of us
different.
comics are weird in some way, dude. We're
Yeah.
all we're all little misfits, man, in some weird way. It doesn't matter what you look like, how smart you think you are, right? Degrees you have, how in shape you are. Then none of that matters. We're all a little bit off in some weird misfit way that either some of us don't care and don't hide at all, or some of us are still trying to hide, right? We're all misfits in that way, and I think we own our misfitisms. I'll make that word up. I think we all own it in some fashion, which is why comics can chill like that and can hang out, man.
Absolutely. And that's why I love Daytona Beach's comedy scene so much because we're called the island of misfits toys. And
We
like
certainly are.
we are the outsiders, but like everyone from like Melbourne, Jacksonville, Orlando always comes to the nod because they can get away with things that they can't say in their own cities.
Yeah,
And
you
because
were even in your own home.
right, and that's why they put me on the very last, the closer at at every week because I'm like I get to say all these really bad things and experiment, and it's so much fun. Whether there's 5 people in the room or there's packed out, I'm just gonna say it, and it's so much fun. I love
Dude,
it. I love the
I
nod.
love those boys and girls out there, man. That Daytona crew when they roll through, man, and from Dolan and Napier and Bennett. What's dude with the long hair? I love him, man. Uh, wow, guy.
There's Sean Patrick Murphy.
Yeah, Patrick
Yeah,
Murphy. Yeah, Sean Murphy, dude.
I love that. I love
With
all
that
of
whole
them.
crew of them, man. Tiver, all of them, man. That whole crew is I love them all out there, man.
Hell yeah, we love you too. And I'm like an hour away, but I claim Daytona. It's like that's where I cut my teeth, and
Yeah,
that's what I love the most about that place. It's like it feels like a real comedy like club because it's intimate. The ceiling's low, it's dark, the spotlight's on you, all eyes are on you, and we deal with the hecklers properly. It's fantastic. So it's
yeah.
good
I would
stuff.
encourage anybody watching. If you haven't been out to the Nog out there in Daytona, man, that's a spot you got to go to for sure. Yeah, you
Absolutely.
think you do comedy, then go to the Nog and then talk to me.
Absolutely. I'm the DJ now, and like they tell me which song they want to walk up to, and I'm the photographer too, and it's just like just to see the flyers of the Nog or the pictures of everyone at the Nog on different flyers throughout the state and the country is like so dope. Like we're representing hard in Daytona. It's awesome.
Well, there's guys like you and girls like you, man, that are unseen in a comedy club world. The ones that are given their time to DJ, to take photos, to do the photography, to build the flyers, right? There's this back scene movement of people and the people that work in the comedy clubs, right? Like, dude, without my staff that's here, dude, I don't know how I got so lucky with the staff that we got out here, man. I mean, dude, my boy is Sport. He's a comedian too. He's also a professional wrestler. I don't know if you met Jack. But Jack, man, we couldn't do this without Jack out here, and the value he brings to this organization. My partner Jamie, obviously, who is a murderous with the numbers, ends up hitting me most of the time about mistakes I'm making, right down to the cent, right. And my server Max, Amy, and Christine, um, and Andy, our door guy. Without those people, this place does not do what it does. And a lot of times in clubs or bars, the people like what you're doing, the DJing, the photography, the door guys and girls, right, the servers, those people are so important to the operation of that, so the show can run smoothly, right? The lighting guys, right, and girls, whoever, those people are so important to what they're doing, and then they rarely get shouted out except at the end of the show. It's like, make sure you tip your servers and bartenders, right? You get that sometimes, but they're the heartbeat and the backbone of any any comedy show in some fashion.
Indeed, and teamwork makes the dream work. And like, I don't get paid to do anything that I do, like photography and
But
DJ
that's what I
wise.
mean. Like, you're volunteering your time at no money, to do that, right? That's dude, that's ridiculous. That's amazing. That is what's necessary.
Indeed, and I don't like, to get paid. I feel weird doing it, and like as long as I bring value to the comics and the venue, I'm good. Like that's fulfilling to me, and like that's why I put my festivals for free. I'm like, I don't care. Like I'll make money off merch, and I'll take that much money to buy merch from the bands and the comics, and I'll just give those out for free too. That's like my home distribution center,
Yeah.
and it's just fantastic. That, I love what I do. If money comes, cool. If not, cool. Like money doesn't. Cash ruins everything around me. Instead of rules everything around me. But
Yeah, I hear you.
yep. But Adam, let's see. We're gonna do a part two. Like the second section later on. About your comedy journey. So I'll make sure to schedule that. But for this, we'll jump into the third segment, which is which comics or independent comedy clubs would you like to see as my future guest on the Stand Up Speakeasy?
Well, you gotta have Dean. You gotta have Dean Napolitano. If I'm sure you probably already have. But I know Dean. Dean and I have been talking about filming his special out here at Madcaps Comedy. He has his one man show, but not his comedy special, which had long since been out. And I'd say definitely you got to have Dean on there. I'm pushing that. I'd love to see Alex Yu, my best friend, who's making a return. He's making a silent return. I know he's been in the lab for the last year, rewriting and writing and rewriting some more, and coming out of something. So Alex Yu, definitely that's probably the two I would put out there. Um, yeah, those two I'd pass it off to right away.
Absolutely. I'll definitely reach out to both of them. I know Adam's hard to get a hold of, so you might have to help me out because he's hardly on social media and I
Oh,
miss
Alex?
him. Yep.
Yeah, good luck. Let me know if you get a hold of him too.
Okay, sounds
Let me
good.
know.
But I'll definitely reach out to Dean for sure. And so we'll definitely schedule like a part two so like we can jump right into the questions that I wanted to ask you, like I ask every comic, but I got to head up to Jacksonville soon by 5. But I would definitely love those are two great comics. I remember meeting Alex Shue in Jacksonville, and like we were on the Florida's Funniest contest, the preliminary rounds. I didn't make it, but he did. But I interviewed him after, and it was just like he was such a great guy. Like
You
his
you talk about a
energy.
beautiful soul and a
Yeah,
beautiful spirit. That is a man that reflects that and kindness and love in his heart. And everybody that's really ever met Alex, that knows Alex, knows that that's not only one of the funniest dudes walking this planet, but also one of the sweetest and most genuine.
indeed. And like whenever he has a show at the Improv, you know how they have the videos on like the Orlando Improv like website.
Mhm.
They always use my interview to promote his show, and it's super sick. And like I've only been performed. I produced one show at the Improv, and then performed at the Florida's Funniest again. But I never make it past the first round. But I was like my very first show I got to produce, and I put all the real laughs or the real radio guys on there,
Yeah.
and so winning comic from each show, and it worked out pretty good. 280 people in a 300 room
That's
theater.
great, man. That's a great show. That's
Yeah, man.
killer.
It was crazy. I mean, like we started so late that I was a feature, and they said like you can only like the headliner told me I can only do 10 minutes because like more people kept on coming in past when they were supposed to. I'm like, all right, $10 or 10 minutes, and they still gave me the $100. I'm like, all right, that
Nice,
works out
nice.
nice.
Yeah, the improv will always pay you for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
But
hit me up in like I'd say 3 months, right? Because that'll be roughly five. Well, that's 4 months into this spot, and hopefully a month or two into the new spot. And we can cover that, man. And if you want to get into comedy too, I filmed my first special already, so I'm in the process of editing that and getting that thing kicked out there too. But yeah, 3 4 months, something like that, be a good catch up spot to see one if we're still in business, if we're still gonna make it, if we're still here, or if we have the other one. Well, God knows.
awesome, Adam. Pick a date in 3 to 4 months, and then we'll jump right back into it, and we'll put in the part two in there as well. And I'll piece this together as soon as I get back from Jacksonville, and I'll send you the link. But it's already live on my YouTube, and so you'll see it there. But yeah, I look forward to interviewing in the 3 or 4 months, and I'll come back since New Smyrna is close by, and I can't wait to see the second location that's closer to me again.
Yeah,
And I remember you talking about it at Mellow Monkey when I first interviewed you, how you wanted to branch out and grow your business that way. And I'm so happy that it's coming back full circle and it's actually happening. And I wish you nothing but success. And shout out to all the mom and pop shops out there, you know, doing it big.
yeah, man. Thank you, man. You're welcome anytime, man. You know that.
Awesome, Adam. Likewise. And I can't wait. Oh, breaking news. Adam is the first comic that I picked for Fest Music and Comedy Festival, Daytona Beach. You heard it here first. He's
I'm
doing
in.
10 minutes, and I can't wait to have him at the Nog stage. And we're going to have a fun 4 days.
That'll be a
So,
blast, man. I look forward to setting the weird, odd sexual tone that I do when I get on stage.
I'm with you, buddy. Wait until you hear my sex positions. I'll send you a secret link to that.
All right, man.
Awesome. But thank you so much, Adam, for being my guest on Stand Speakeasy. I can't wait to see you again and seeing where your Mad Caps grows. And it's going to be
Hopefully, I'm not in
amazing.
the back of a van, man. Hopefully, not in a van traveling around doing road shows for some money.
Indeed. Awesome, Adam. And are there any final words you'd like to give out to the audience at home?
Um, I'd just say for all if I spoke to anybody, I would speak to all the comedians. Um, you know, keep pushing. Don't quit on yourself. Don't give up. Don't take no for an answer. Right. Keep writing. Keep working. I know it feels tough when you're in it 5 years or 10 years or more, or 5 days, right, and more, and you can't get spots, or you're not getting paid, or you're driving 300 miles for a 15 spot. Just stay on it and stay grinding. It's the consistency and the pushing and the working that's going to work out in some end. And even if the end doesn't mean you're selling specials on Netflix and have your own TV show, even if it doesn't mean that, at the end of the journey, and I mean your death, you will say that you got to live and challenge and push that challenge for your life, which to me is the real victory in what you're doing, not Dave Chappelle status, right? It's the fact that searching for meaning means more than finding meaning, and as long as you're searching for the meaning and the purpose and pushing toward that dream, you're doing the right thing.
Absolutely. And please follow and like Madcaps and Adam on Facebook, Instagram. Go to his website, madcapscomedy.com. The scrolling on the bottom, it's also in the description box below, where you can also buy Adam's book on Amazon. Sell those books out. And when you bring it to Madcaps, have Adam autograph it and
Well,
personalize it
that'll
for you.
devalue your book, man. It's better if I don't sign. If I sign, it's worthless after that. You can't even return it.
Indeed. Awesome, Adam. Thank you so much for being my guest today. And I can't wait to see you in 4 months and performing on your stage in between those times. And we'll see you soon. And for everyone else, take care of yourselves and be safe. Be good to each other. We'll see you on the next episode of the Stand Up Speakeasy.
See you, Sarah.
See you, Adam.